Not to take this off on a tangent, but I was actually thinking about that, about how, um, as you know, I've said I believe in my gut this election was stolen, and so do you.
Right.
I'm not as concerned over poring over um, all the numbers, and I know some people who are really plugged into the process of trying to determine what fraud actually happened and exposing it, and I'm just kind of I just feel like this may be disappointing to some people, but I think they stole it and I think they pulled it off to such I don't know if he's going to be able to
Oh yeah,
prove
I don't.
they
I
did it.
don't think
Yeah.
he's going to be able to.
But
I mean, it'd be great, but I don't think he's going to pull it off.
so one thing I started thinking about, because it's just so absurd that we're supposed to believe that somehow Biden got more votes than Obama got during
Right.
his landslide victories.
Yep.
And we're also supposed to believe that he did that during a year when Trump made gains in places that had previously not voted for Trump and with populations that had not voted for Trump. He doubled his support with black women. He increased his support with black men, with the gay and
I think he
lesbian
doubled LGBTQ. Yep.
demographic, LGBTQ. He increased his support with Latinos. I mean, across the board, he increased his support with every demographic except white men. And we're somehow supposed to believe that while all that was happening and while there was all this momentum of people like myself who did not vote for him last time and who came out to vote for him this time, that somehow Biden had more enthusiasm, or
Right.
what they're really saying is that the enthusiasm against Trump was so great that Biden got more votes than Obama did during his landslide. That's just BS. But what I was thinking about it was, number one, I'm wondering if it's going to make me feel like not voting in the future. I don't know. That remains to be seen.
Woohoo.
Well, you would be for that, but generally, I like to believe that my vote matters. And now I'm sort of in a
No.
place, at least right now, of thinking, yeah, it doesn't really. Look. I think they've stolen it before. I think they stole it. This may be an unpopular opinion among conservatives, but I think they stole it for W. Um, but this time, the lie is so big, and I think there's no turning back from this. Like, I'll never trust another election again, and so that's one thing that's going through my head. The other thing that's going through my head is related to what you're talking about. If you're in the public at large, how the legacy media and social media has created this second reality almost,
Yep.
where, like you said, people feel weird maybe about expressing any doubts about the election integrity.
Yeah.
And and so I was thinking about things like great scandals in our history that we all sort of uniformly don't trust. Like, for example, one of the things that's happened during our lifetime is the Jeffrey Epstein death. It doesn't matter if you're on the right or the left, almost everyone I know agrees that he did not kill himself.
Right.
Or if he did, that he was allowed to. But nobody believes the official story at all.
Right.
And if you look back, I think the Kennedy assassination is something that a lot of people are very skeptical about, the official narrative of the Kennedy assassination. And I was thinking about this election, and I was like, is this going to be like Epstein and like Kennedy, or in 2, 3, 4, 5 decades from now, are people going to look back and is it going to be recorded in history as the Great Theft? And are people going to look back at it knowing that it was all BS? I don't think so, because they control how history
Yeah.
is written.
Well, I mean, yeah, it depends if they're still in control. I mean, I don't think that I don't want to say that this effort to uncover voter fraud and irregularities doesn't matter. It does, and I watched the Pennsylvania um, hearings on what was it, Wednesday? I watched the Senator Mastriano hearings on Wednesday. I think it was the, let's see, what does it say? The Pennsylvania Senate Majority Policy Committee hearing in Gettysburg. Uh, but here's how I view it. If you let's say the election, I'm trying to think of a good analogy. Let's say the election is you measuring the height of two plates. There's the Donald Trump plate and the Joe Biden plate, right?
Okay.
And there's like a cake on the Joe Biden. There's nothing on the Donald Trump plate, but there's a cake on the Joe Biden plate, and we're arguing about and there's like maybe there's like a little bit of icing on the Trump plate by itself, and there's a cake on the Joe Biden plate with a little bit of icing on the top of the cake, and we're arguing over the thickness of the icing on the Biden plate because we think they cheated and put more like the technicalities of the vote. I look at that Biden plate and go, well, I mean, even Robert Epstein has already said at least 6 million votes were swayed by Google this election. I mean, the swaying of the votes, even if there were legitimate votes, it's not what you would call a voter fraud, but it is what the left would have called election interference had it been done by Russia. But since it's done by Google
or had it been
and
done by
Twitter,
Trump, yeah.
Right. Right. But since it's done by Google and Twitter and Facebook and, their favorite friends, none of it counts. And so I look at that and I go, well, yeah, maybe if you can shave enough icing off the top of the Biden cake, Trump still wins. Maybe. But there's an entire cake that if you took it away, he would definitely win. If you took away the massive bias, the massive vote swaying and election influence that Twitter and Google and Facebook have been doing for years, especially the last 4 years, as we saw Google intentionally step up their efforts, I kind of look at it and I go, well, that's the big problem, right? That's because at some point that cake is going to get tall enough that you don't have to even do voter fraud. At some point, it won't matter.
But I think they did, but I definitely think they did both because I don't think it was enough this time. But
I do think they did it. I do think they did it. I do, and again, this is the if we had actual journalism. By the way, so try this. Try going and finding a thorough list of all of the evidence for, like, legitimate evidence for voting problems in even if it's just in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Georgia, and or just those 3 states maybe, right? There's not, like, the mainstream media doesn't have any lists like that. The only lists they have are, here's Trump's claims completely debunked with no evidence. Like, they have that kind of stuff, right? And you can find some sites like that are way out there on the right who have ridiculous stuff listed, but even they don't have a good list. There's not really any, because I did spend some time searching around. There's not really a good. I don't even want to say unbiased, even a biased. There's not even a good biased list of. Here's the evidence that's been laid out. Here are the allegations in Georgia and the evidence for them, and we don't think that they're true, or we do think they're true. Whatever it is, here's the evidence been presented. Here's the evidence in Pennsylvania. There's just not. There's not a list.
And to your point, had the media, if the legacy media and the deep state, if they had been manipulating algorithms via Google and YouTube and trying to sway the vote for 4 years for Trump, and if the fraud, let's say alleged fraud, seemed to work in Trump's favor, you can guarantee those lists would be ubiquitous. They would be on every legacy media channel. You wouldn't be able to turn around. Your friends on the left would be sharing them constantly. See, it's
Brian
in Newsweek.
Stetzler's or whatever his name is. His voice would be hoarse.
Yeah, they're all. It's everywhere. It's obvious it happened. Look, it's in the legacy media.
Yeah.
So